Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with part 2 of Mohammed, Prophet of Islam, taken from a monthly letter devoted to spirituality and philosophical problems by Manly P. Hall, Portland, Oregon, October the 20th, 1936. The Doctrines of Muhammad. It is generally conceded by authorities on the Islamic cult that the doctrines of Muhammad were largely influenced by Jewish tradition. He drew heavily upon the laws and statutes established by Moses and the other prophets of Israel, and nearly all of his legislations were influenced by the institutions of Jewish law. His religion grew up in a land where three religious systems were influencing the private and public life: Judaism, Christianity, and Arabian paganism, the latter a worship of the stars, spirits, and demons. All vied for the favor of the populace. That corruption had undermined each of these faiths must be conceded. Arabia was afflicted with innumerable decadent cults, superstition, and impostor-ridden. It was the evil of the time which produced the prophet. The nobility of his mind revolted against the iniquities of the perverted faith. The cosmogony which lies behind Muhammad's concept of the universe was similar to that which the Jews derived from the Chaldeans. The concept was geocentric and Ptolemaic. Above the earth and surrounding it were the seven heavens, the orbits of the planets, and beyond these the empyrean, or supreme heaven, the abode of God. There was a gate in each of the orbits of the planets. Thus the approach to deity was up a ladder of 7 symbolic rungs, as in the Greek and Persian mysteries. The whole concept is almost identical with that set forth by St. John in the Revelation. The Mohammedan paradise, a sphere of aesthetic ecstasy, was located in the 7th heaven, below the footstool of God. And here were congregated the believers and those who during life had lived, preached, and defended the doctrines of the prophet. The creation not only included the hierarchs of angels and men, but the races of superhuman beings called jinn or genie, of whom many extraordinary tales are told. According to the teachings of the Quran, certain animals reached heaven. These were the dog of the 7 sleepers of Euphrates, the ass that rebuked Balaam, Solomon's ant, Jonah's well, the ram of Ishmael, the ass upon which the queen of Sheba rode and her dove, the camel of Caleb, the ox of Moses, and an animal called Al-Burak, upon which Muhammad ascended to heaven in the Islamic equivalent to the Apocalypse. Occasionally, the ass upon which Jesus rode into Jerusalem is added or substituted for one of the other animals. The sacred book of Islam is, of course, the Quran, derived from the word Qara, which means that which should be read. The Quran is divided into 114 sections, which may be termed chapters. They are not numbered, and the arrangement of them has been subject to numerous changes. In the heading of each chapter, it is noted at what place the revelation is given, whether at Mecca or Medina. The number of verses in the Quran is about 6,000. The book contains 77,639 words, and the number of letters is 323,015. And among the devotees of the faith, it has been calculated with great exactitude how many times each letter is repeated in the whole work. Like the writings of the ancient Jews, it is agreed that there is a Kabbalah in the Quran, and by the systems of Notarikon and Gematria, familiar to scholars of Kabbalistic literature, a mystical interpretation can be derived from the work. The Quran was written in the dialect of the tribe of Quraysh, the most cultured of the Arabians, and it is universally acknowledged among the literary of the faith to be the most perfect and elegant example of Arabic literature. This beauty causes it to be referred to as the permanent literary miracle. The most important point to be emphasized in the faith of Islam is the absolute unity of God. Muhammad makes no point of distinction between the God of Islam, Christendom, and Israel, emphasizing merely that Israel and Christianity have departed from a proper understanding of the nature and power of the one and true God. Islam rejects the Trinity of Christendom, maintaining that the triune concept of God was not justified by the scriptures, but was an interpolation legislated into existence by the councils of the church. To Muhammad, God is forever one and undivided. Prophets and messiahs are not personifications or embodiments of God, but good men sent by God. With this condition, Muhammad accepts the ministry of Jesus, acknowledging him to be a true prophet sent out by God, but denying that Jesus differed from other prophets sent in other ages. Next to the teaching of the absolute oneness of the Creator, the most outstanding point in the Islamic faith is its teaching of predestination, or the inevitably of that which will happen. Islam teaches that no man can escape his destiny, that regardless of his efforts, that happens which is to happen. There are no accidents in the universe. In this teaching, Muhammad seems to have sensed the universal laws which enclose man in the structure of inevitables. Fear and regrets are useless. Each man must certainly meet his own tomorrow. Predestination is not complete fatalism in the ordinary sense of the word. It is true that man cannot change that which is written for him in the book of life. But what man knows his destiny until he achieves it? It may be that the very struggle to avoid fate is the part of fate itself. A man struggling to escape mediocrity achieves a high estate only to discover in the end that his very struggle accomplished the destiny already appointed for him. The doctrine of predestination ordered life in Islam. Patience, serenity, resignation, and a grateful acceptance of all that life gave or withheld. These were the virtues of Islam, stimulated and perfected by the doctrine of predestination. The Mohammedan confession of faith is in substance: there is no God but the true God, and Muhammad is his prophet. Next in order of this confession are the 6 requisites of acceptance. A follower of the prophet must first believe in God, second in the hierarchs and angels, third in the scriptures, fourth in the prophets, fifth in the resurrection, and last, judgment, and sixth in the predetermination of good and evil. It can easily be seen from this outline how deeply Islam is indebted to the Jewish and Christian sacred books. For, with the exception of certain emphasis, the 3 programs are identical. 4 duties are demanded of the follower of the prophet. First, he must practice prayer. Second, he must practice charity. Third, he must fast. And fourth, he must take the pilgrimage to Mecca. Prayer is probably the most important of the living practices of the faith. The true believer must pray 5 times a day under any and all conditions, barring extreme illness. His voice in the morning and his voice in the night must be uplifted in prayer to the God who dwells in the east and in the west and in all secret places of the world. There are 2 forms of the practice of charity. First, a stipulated amount demanded for the common good. And second, voluntary contributions determined by emergencies of the hour. Gifts may be of 5 things: of cattle or livestock, of money, of corn, of fruit, or of wares that are sold. Muhammad referred to fasting as the gateway of religion, and an early prophet called it 1/4 part of the faith. Fasting not only included abstinence from food, but the restraint of all the senses, and the fasting of the heart from worldly cares. All Mohammedans are required by the laws of the Quran to fast the whole of the lunar month of Ramadan. That is, they may not take food during the daytime of that month, and the fast is declared broken if they so much smell perfumery. The rites of fasting appear in many primitive religions and are salutary dispensations against the intemperance of semi-civilized peoples. Through associating fasting and bathing with religion, the physical well-being of the race was naturally increased. The last of the prescribed duties was the pilgrimage to Mecca, and even in this late day, it is the great moment in the life of the pious believer. To die without visiting Mecca is almost as serious an offense as to die an unbeliever. Of course, in the days when the members of the faith were limited to Arabia, the pilgrimage was possible to nearly all of Islam. But now, with believers scattered over the whole surface of the earth, the literal fulfillment of the admonition to pilgrimage is impossible of accomplishment. Many thousands of pilgrims visit Mecca each year, but the millions that make up Islam cannot go there. But such as do accomplish the perilous journey through bankruptcy and financial matters are highly honored in their communities and wear a twist of green foil about their fezes, that all the world may know they have visited the shrine of their faith. The laws instituted by Muhammad, though actually a part of the faith, are not generally included in a survey of its religious elements. These laws were greatly in advance of those which they displaced, and these regulating industry and calling for the cooperation towards mutual betterment might be profitably studied by nations not of Islamic persuasion even in this late date. The laws regulating marriage and divorce, laws establishing punishment for criminals, laws administering public office, all these the Prophet had to formulate, apply, and in some cases revoke where the experiments were not successful. It cannot be denied that in the main these laws elevated Arabia, bringing civilization and culture with them. The night journey of Muhammad to heaven on the back of Al-Buraq. The face and the body of the Prophet are concealed according to the ordinances of Islam. One of the most extraordinary legends in connection with Muhammad is the story of his night journey to heaven. In the midst of the night, as the Prophet lay asleep in Mecca, the angel Gabriel appeared before him and awakened him. After purifying the heart of the Prophet, Gabriel caused a strange animal to appear. This creature, which was called Al-Buraq, was a white animal resembling a horse with a human head and the tail of a peacock. The Prophet mounted upon the back of the Al-Buraq and was carried in an instant to Jerusalem and the rock Moriah. After dismounting from the strange animal, Muhammad beheld a ladder of golden rungs that had fallen from heaven. Climbing up the rungs, Muhammad passed through 7 gates, at each of which stood one of the prophets of the patriarchs. At the first gate stood Adam, at the second John, at the third Joseph, at the fourth Enoch, at the fifth Aaron, at the sixth Moses, and at the seventh Jesus. Passing through the gates, Muhammad was brought into the presence of God, but the face of deity was veiled with thousands of veils. Even so obscured, the brilliancy nearly destroyed the Prophet. This vision gives a rather comprehensive view of the Islamic theory of the universe. Legends abound, and traditions are without end, but beneath each of them is some mystical significance if studied and understood by the devout. After the transmission of the Prophet, mystical sects sprang up to perpetuate the metaphysical interpretation of the Quran and the traditions. Chief among these sects was that of the dervishes. This order still wields considerable influence in the Muslim world. Another mystical movement of great significance is the Sufi. These metaphysical organizations show beyond doubt that in its inner parts, the faith of Islam shares the common heritage of metaphysical secrets. No portrait or likeness of the Prophet Muhammad has descended in the tradition of Islam. His tomb is a place of pilgrimage and a few relics are cherished in some of the more important mosques. It was against the wish of the Prophet that his followers should ever cast a likeness of him. Therefore, to this day, only tradition survives to describe him. He is usually described as a large, well-built man with majestic manner and long beard. There is a tradition that his beard was red or auburn. From the time of its inception, Islam patronized arts and sciences. It encouraged knowledge and culture and preserved some of the best of classical literature through the dark ages of Europe's obscuration. Arab culture came into Europe through Spain, and for some time, universities at Granada and Alhambra were the leading educational institutions of Europe. It is recorded of the Moors that they built the first university for the education of women. Arab scientists have contributed much to modern learning, including Arabic numbers now in common use, the science of algebra, and the earliest experimentation in optics. Modern Islam, mingling its course with the life of the whole race, occupies an honorable place among the religions and beliefs of mankind. Quotations. If I had 2 coats, I would sell one and buy white hyacinths for my soul. The revelation of this book, there is no doubt thereof, is from the Lord of all creatures. Will they say Muhammad hath forged it? Nay, it is the truth from thy Lord, that thou mayest preach to the people, unto whom no preacher hath come before thee. God knoweth that which entereth into the earth, and that which issueth out of the same, and that which descendeth from heaven, and that which ascendeth thereto. And he is with you, wheresoever ye be. For God seeth that which ye do. His is the kingdom of heaven and earth, and unto God shall all things return. He causes the night to succeed the day, and he causes the day to succeed the night. And he knoweth the innermost part of men's breast. Is it not true that I come in your midst while you were misguided? So Allah guided you to the right path. You were indigent. Allah made you prosperous. You were ever at daggers drawn with one another. Allah created mutual affection in your heart. You must know that every Muslim is the brother of every other Muslim. You are all equal, enjoying equal rights and have similar obligations. You are all members of one common brotherhood. So it is forbidden for any of you to take from his brother, save what the latter should willingly give. You have certain rights over your wives, and so have your wives over you. They are the trust of God in your hands, so you must treat them with all kindness. Yours sincerely, Manly P. Hall. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies through PayPal or Patreon. Links in the description below. Thank you very much.